Hey YouTube. Okay, so I'm going to go into some different stuff today, and if you haven't watched my last 4 or 5 videos, I would go back and watch them, or you probably, I don't know if you, because I'm just going to go into it, I'm just going to pick up where I left off, so you might not know what we're talking about or take it the wrong way, so just do a review if you haven't done it already, but I think most of you who actually chime in have seen them, so onward. So first thing is, last time we talked about the 7 heavens and inheritances and so forth, and I drew this, got the electromagnetic fields, and I realized that picture is kind of silly because I started seeing it differently. And here's I've showed this before, but I'm just going to give it as a visual of the electromagnetic fields. And this is the cosmic egg. This is, you know, the electromagnetic fields use polarity to function. That's how they function. And so that just sort of gives you a visual of the resonant frequency of the electromagnetic fields that create the dome-shaped structures and points, rings of matter, which we've talked about in earlier videos. So I drew this, and I drew this because I was walking in the park the other day and had a realization about the way it would actually play out. And this is how it looked in my mind. It's just a drawing. And I realized that in the scope of things, these would be further apart than I was able to draw them on this piece of paper, because the plasma tube that we're in, with that light coming in this direction, would, you know, hit the dome and focalize to make our sun, because the plasma is always spiraling, spiral. So there would be, you know, there'd be more space because the light would be hitting the domes, whatever, as it came down. I think you know what I mean. So I drew this in representation of, here is the first heaven, and what I couldn't draw here is that it is the well. I'm going to call it the well or the Holy Grail in this video. And this is a very precious place, okay? And then, you know, you go up through the different tiers. And I've drawn 7 of them. 7 chakras, 7 notes, 7 heavens. There's a reason for that. It's a place of tuning. It's a place of choices. It's the universe, the one song. We're singing here, okay? We're finding a song within coordinate and discordant notes, right? So when the plasma is coming down onto the domes this direction, this space up here can see everything. So it is fully illuminated as you go down. And you think of standing on the top of like the Mayan pyramids with the tiers on them. It's a really good example of what I'm talking about. You could see all the way down to the different planes of existence. So that's what it looks like up here for them. So when the plasma comes in this direction, right, it's inverted from when it comes up this way, and so they can see everything. So they're the eye up here, and they are the illuminated ones. They're the Illuminati. They are currently holding all of the knowledge. It is their turn, so to speak, of getting an opportunity to watch and to see what happens in the well and the different places of learning and growth that we have available to us within this system. And I want to point out that there is a space in the center that does connect all of these places, but to travel there is only with, how do you say that? I want to say permission, but really that's not the word. The word is, so many notes. Let's see if we can find the word. So you can only travel up through that when the retuning or recalibration is taking place, like either through a death, right, or through a reversal of plasma. And it is the stairway to heaven. It is Jacob's ladder. It is what was the one my friend was talking about? The anyway, there's a million different references to this, and they call it ascension. And in language, part of the spell casting, they make anything higher is better, more knowledgeable, more wisdom, more everything is it's up above heaven, to aspire to go to heaven, and it's all about that. But it's inversion, and it's said that way for a reason. But really, this is the Holy Grail. This is the well of opportunity. So so I would think of this more as like, the way, the black and white way that we say and think of things here is the 7 layers of hell, but that wouldn't be correct either. So it's 7 layers of different choices and different places of learning. And some of them are places of war, where some of our bloodlines that we have discussed actually come from. And war it's part of their process, it's how they break things down and split things apart, and for whatever reason, that's what they're doing there. There's places of great learning, which might seem like punishment and stuff that we understand it that way here, but there's purpose behind it, of looking for that correct note to organize ourselves to be in harmony, which, hasn't happened yet. Or maybe it has happened a gazillion times in a million different cosmic eggs within the brain of the creature that we live in, because we live in an electrical brain-like system, like neurons in a brain sort of system. And once you start to really look into the the electromagnetic forces, it's just like a brain system. It works in the same way, and you'll start to see it. So we have the illuminated ones. They're called the Watchers, right? And so when the plasma comes in this direction, they can see all of the different points of matter, the different playing points within the song. And then you got down here, you got that Holy Grail, you got that well. And this is a special place. So when you come here, you really get an opportunity to be a major player in the game. You really get an opportunity to have more choices than you would in some of these other realms where it's really like about a specific thing. So to come down into the well of fullness down here is really, within our language, higher than this high point of here where they're watching. And they do get the opportunity to watch. That is allowed to them, because that's how they're going to learn and grow, is to watch this arena. Well, somewhere along the way, instead of just watching, there was a choice made to participate and intermingle, and even to corrupt this place, which I think the only real opportunity for that is when the illumination is in this direction. So by whatever means they're accessing, Jacob's ladder, to get in here. And I believe that it has to do with spilling the blood, because like if you look at the story of Odin, which I have here, Odin came down to see Mimir, the guardian of the well, right? Mimir's like, well, you want wisdom, I like wisdom too. What can you offer me in trade? And Odin offers his eye, which is sort of symbolic of what the understanding is up here in these layers, right? Which is a very different game being played there than is being played down here in the well. So there's a deal made at the well. And it's not just Odin coming in with his eye and corrupting the well. This is the Watcher of the first heaven making a bad choice and a decision to open this realm up to all kinds of corruption and all kinds of bloodlines, which allows for everything that did happen here. And so it wasn't just like these people came in and fucked everything up. There was some allowance here by those who were responsible to let that in, like a trade. And so the corruption's in, and we've talked about this in reference to like a blood virus or a parasite or these different things, which it does seem that way in certain contexts. I'm not really going to talk about it in that context today, but so the watchers are watching everything in this state. Okay, and they watch everything you do and everything you say. It's true. They have full view. They have full view in. And I don't know if you ever felt that way. I did, especially as a child. Like I was being watched all the time. Everything I did. And sometimes I'd be like, oh, check this out. Look at this. And I'd be by myself doing stuff, feeling watched. I always felt watched. Well, you are watched here. You are watched by the watchers. And when the plasma switches directions and comes back up underneath the well and comes this way, well, what's illuminated then? We see everything. We see all the points of matter, all the domes, all of the different realms that exist here with us will suddenly be illuminated, and we will be the watchers. We will be the ones who are judging, or however you want to put that, and the tables get turned. And these are just the greater seasons. We experience seasons right now in the blue realm with the plasma coming this way because the spiraling plasma, right, makes that light. So this is a greater season. This is like a larger season that exists outside of that, where you've got time and then you have the now moment. Because time disappears when the light stops moving and the light becomes constant. So it's just a larger season of things. This is a tuning place. So we're trying to tune ourselves with something. And so there are those who are discordant within this. And I think right now it is very discordant. It's noisy. It's noisy. And there are people here who are trying to quiet the noise. There are people here who are trying to get out of these murder pacts, the murder for gain, which we talked about in another video, where there's predator and prey in this whole thing. Because when the plasma switches directions and the light comes up and you receive all of that through your soul, you don't need food. All of that will change. The sex will change, the mating will change, the food will change, the whole thing will change. And I don't know what its exact opposites are, like especially when it comes to the sex. I think that's still a mystery for me. But, you will not have to be feasting and shitting and all of that kind of stuff. So at that point, those who are here, who have gotten out of murder pacts, who don't feast on flesh and blood, who are humble, who care for animals, who caretake nature, who care for others, and who remain within their innocence, who are not tempted to go too deeply into this matrix, will be the inheritors of the well. And that is just about frequency and tone, because of what it is a sacred space. The well is, it must be cleaned by the plasma, and everything in the body is cleaned that way. I was reading about toxins in tissue last night in the brain and how the plasma comes in. And so I'm starting to understand that more on a biological level. So there will be those who live here now who will inherit other spaces. So there's all these other spaces to tune yourself. So if you came here as a descendant of one of the watchers in one of these other spaces, it may be that you'll go back to one of these spaces to tune yourself there. And perhaps when it's your turn to be a watcher again, you choose to be a watcher and to observe and to come in with the correct timing yourself, or you choose again to make the blood sacrifice, worm your way in here, and have your feast. You know, and the feast is always an option. It's always an option to just throw down and feast on what's available to you. And we know as humans that's true. So, you know, it's about responsibility. It's about choices. So this is the realm of choice, unlike any of these other realms. And here you have an opportunity to go back into the tuning. Well, I think if you master this song, eventually it will lead you on one of the neuro pathways to a different cosmic egg or a different realm entirely. So I do think there is a note or a frequency that will carry us somewhere else when we achieve that. And, you know, it may be that who knows how much this is being played out, how many renditions of the song we've already tried to come up with. It doesn't really matter, because when we get it, we'll get it. But so that makes me want to talk about the different beings that are here. You know, and I've talked a lot about the blood types and the blood origins and the Rh negatives and the Rh positives. And the Rh positive is the mark of the beast. However, that does not mean that you as an Rh positive person are, you know, marked by Satan and fucked in any way. That's not what I mean by that. What I mean it is that the mark of the genetic modification that they did here. And so a lot of like the O, A, B or AB positives that have blood sacrificed their way into this realm, the illuminated ones, who know all about this, know where they're from, know what they're doing, know who their God is. Where's this one? They know that they're here for the feast, and they know where they're going back to. So they're here. They exist here. We see them on our televisions. They're manipulating things here. And in this version of the plasmic thing, they are the L. They are the masters of frequency. And that's what I believe the L is. The L is a master of the electromagnetic field, and one who knows how to use it, and you might call it magic. Well, magic does not belong to humans here in this realm with the plasma coming this way. You're not supposed to participate in that here. That's not your place. You have a different job when you're here. But the Watchers are going to be masters of the electromagnetic field because they are the current holders of the wisdom of it. And you know, and there's all kinds of, like some of the people who sit up at the high, what they would call most high. People think of this as God and stuff. Total inversion. You know, are like Samael, Gabriel, Michael. You know, these are masters of electromagnetic field. And, you know, the fallen angel. And these are the people who are currently using the field and have use of it. And this is what they're doing. They chose to feast. They chose the game that they chose to play this time, looking for whatever chord they're looking for. And like, you know, here's some proof of that too. Like, we ordered these at-home blood test kits. The company is called ILLdone. It's from the UK. And they make blood tests and fertility tests. And that is just a reference to them using the electromagnetic field in accordance with what they're doing with humanity. Blood and fertility. This is their game. ILLdone. So they are currently the holders of the electromagnetic ability. Okay, and so they are here, and a lot of them are O pluses, A pluses, A Bs, and some Bs. So they're going to go back to their space. They know that. You know, they're not deluded into thinking they're inheriting the well. Okay, And then you've got your O positives, A positives, B positives, AB positives, who are of those blood types because they've mingled with our population here. And they're human beings who in their innocence and stuff are working with that energy that's been brought down in here, and they can master it. Like, I know an O positive right now who I think is an upcoming gatekeeper. Why would I think he's an upcoming gatekeeper? Because he's an O positive who is a vegan, who does not feast on flesh and blood, who's not participate in murder for gain, who receives and accepts humble people with respect. And that's a really big thing that you have to do within the well to receive an inheritance here. You know, you can't be part of their feast of flesh and blood, and you cannot be alpha, omega over others. You cannot take advantage of others, of animals, of other people, of people who are humble or generous. You know, that you receive that with equal humility and generosity means you've mastered that. So I think some of the people here who are of the positive blood type may go back to their inheritance, but as a gatekeeper, as a person who is responsible enough to keep this in some kind of order. And it's in an order because it is resonance and frequency, like a song. It's not in order because of control. This is just the nature of it, like that polarity nature. So many people who are Rhea Zeus positive will probably end up with positions of authority because they are responsible enough to not abuse it, if that makes sense. So, and I would call them a gatekeeper. So when the plasma switches directions and comes up through the soles of our feet and illuminates from this direction, then we become the ones with all the knowledge. And who gets blinded? I mean, right up here is they're gonna no idea of anything below them, and so on with each consecutive level. So at this point, the tables get turned, and the meek who inherit the earth will be the ones who are more in control of how the song is being played. And this will be a time of regrowth and connection and all the things that aren't happening here now. You know, all those things that we long for in ourselves and others, that just don't seem achievable. And it's because we're in this inverted state of blindness and manipulation. And that's how I view them as the L. They are manipulators of the electromagnetic field. They're not just masters of it, they're manipulators of it. And so when we are the L, when the electromagnetic field comes up through us and we learn how to master that electromagnetic energy again, which we have in the past, we will remember, we will be illuminated, and we will have the knowledge. In fact, I believe there may be key points left here where we will find all of the knowledge, because you can't just hide it forever. I think it has to be left behind. And I think it has been many times. So then we will be the ones responsible for the electromagnetic field and how it is used within the system. And then we become the L. So it's not like the L is, these are the bad guys and these are the good guys. The L is strictly a being who can work with electromagnetic energy. And that's none of us right now. I mean, we've been raised to think of electricity as something completely different. Our world is completely dry and mundane, desert, toasty fucking place, right? So and that's why they talk about black and white magic. There's a misuse of magic and a good use of magic. Well, I'll tell you what the good use of magic is. It's not to use it at all. You know, and I think that a lot of people want to identify with these beings who, and in the inverted plasma looking down, who think of themselves as gods. And they discovered that they could present it that way and be worshipped and receive all this energy from the well, all this worship constantly. That's what I was talking about in the last video about call my name only through me. You know, they are just, and so the responsibility for those in the well when it's turned the other way is you can see very, very different. So it is to not impose. So as a place of choice, this world, this beautiful well, this holy grail that you live in, you are given an opportunity in the face of so much to be kind, to be humble, to eat in a way that does no harm. And that's why the diet is fruits, grains, nuts, seeds, and herbs. Or you can switch it from grasses, grains and say grasses. You know, because this isn't a slaughter. And that's why, you know, you're told to eat that way in the old scriptures, which are just bloodline stories. They're not religions. They were turned into religions to trap you. That's why they say to eat that way, because you're trying to get through the flesh and blood feast without ending up somewhere you didn't want to be. Okay? So now is the time. Okay? The plasma switch will happen. It is coming. And when it comes, it's time to ask yourself, who am I? Who do I want to be? You know, what is my identity? And what am I made up of? What have been my choices here? And I think a lot of people don't want to hear that right now. It's really big in our culture. Just be like, yeah, you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? We've talked about that before. And so this is not a very big percentage of the population who's going to be left here. And, oh, and that was another thing. That's right. I was saying about the people. So a lot of my friends are talking about NPCs and living souls versus non-living souls and the matrix, okay? And so I want to speak to that with a slightly different viewpoint because it doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit well inside of me to call some people living souls and some people not. It doesn't feel right to call people NPCs to me. This feels like that sounds to me like something that they would do, and in that inverted place where they're just looking to feast. You know, you want to elevate yourself, elevate yourself and make yourself special like a god who wields magic. I mean, you're just falling into that trap. You know, this is about humility. Your identity here is a human being and your willingness not to take reins of power and control. So what I see is these people who appear like they're not living souls, these people who appear like they're NPCs, they're actually just people who have made super different choices than you in their time in the well. And that's why they seem kind of like shadow projections at this point, because we're getting so close to the switchover where people are there is going to be a changing of orientation. So they're going to a different place than you are. So there's no resonance between you. So that's why they appear that way. It's not like they're not legitimate in their own right. They're just not, they're not the same thing you are. We didn't come here to all be the same. You know, we came here to tune this out. So, or tune it on or whatever. So then that brings me to like the matrix. Okay, so sitting there holding that picture. The matrix is what a lot of people feel like we're asleep down here. We're asleep and that we actually exist somewhere else, and that this is just like an overlay, like a grid overlay. And I maintain that that's absolutely not true. You're in a place, it is a biological place of collected matter, and that's here, you're here. But what they've done is they have done this matrix coding here. And it's just a way for the spirit world to have access. And it does take your agreement to achieve that. So they put it all over everything. Let me get to some examples here. Like, oh, here's like the L that I found. All of the electrical poles say L, and they all have numbers and letters on them. They're all coded. And that's L for electricity. So there's the code on that. And some of them had, you know, a lot more coding on them. And so letters and numbers are the matrix. That is the coding. You know, you got on your house, you've got letters on your door, you know, letters on your numbers on your mailbox. Your street is lettered and numbered, the letters and the numbered of the blocks. So you know, the more you go in it's just a coding, and they put it all over everything that is biological here. I mean, everything in this world is coded and signed, right? And so, you know, even your identity on your driver's license, right? Yes, that's McLovin. You know, you got all these numbers. You're handed number after number after number. I mean, you get in your car and it's numbered, and your license to drive it is numbers, and there's letters all over it. I mean, when you start to look at that, we just started looking around. We were walking around. Here's your garbage can is coded. Oops, that's me. Your car. It's another garbage can. The food. Went to the store. Everything in the store is super coded. Like, when you think about it as coding, as the matrix code, the overlay is this stuff. It's the letters and the numbers that's all over every part of our lives. Because all the water is coded. And so when they have all this coding all over everything, it's sort of pulling, you're on these things, and it just pulls you deeper and deeper into that matrix-like reality. And they would like you to think that that's the truth, because that pulls you more and more into the spirit realm, where you're handing over your energy, you're handing over your life force to be utilized by something else. And it's a giveaway of power. And it seems kind of real. And so I think that's why a lot of people feel that way. It's like you run into these situations and people, and it just feels coded and strange like that. But it really is a manipulation, in my thinking, of our natural world. And they can do that because of the direction of the plasma. I mean, we're sort of hypnotized right now by this moving light in the sky. It's like sort of being in a dreamlike state. And it's not really a dream state as much as it is like a hypnotic state. And you're very susceptible here in this state to magic and to coding. And, you know, when all the numbers are letters, and the letters represent numbers. And so when you see something with numbers all over it, actually says something. There's actually letters associated with that. So it's so deep that it puts you into this hypnosis because you're surrounded by it. And I don't know if you've ever spent a lot of time deep in nature, gone deep into the wilderness, or spent extended periods of time within nature, because I've spent a lot of time living really close to the dirt in a tent for years up in the mountains, and it's lonely. And as much as I discovered a lot about myself, I realized too out there that there's just not a lot of attention and participation within nature here. There isn't. There people aren't involved. It's a lonely place to be. There's not, you know, one thing I loved about the forest was I knew where things were, like little bird nests and a place where a skunk died, or little things that had happened. And I always thought how cool it would be to have other people in a community that also walked through these woods and were aware of all these nuances, because there's a whole world there. And in our world where we live in this gridded matrix, like, nobody gives a shit about that stuff. It's, who cares about where there's a warbler nest in a cliffside somewhere? That's not relevant. What's relevant is the levels of learning at the university, the Masonic levels that you can climb through masonry, you know, all their leveled, tiered, pyramidal-like thinking is what's dominated here as success. And that's just because they've taken over and are having their feast. It'll soon be over. So I just sort of want to point out that the matrix is a subtle coding of our environment through letters, numbers, spell casting, speech even, that we used to pass knowledge on orally. And there was always an oral tradition of storytelling, and that was how we shared information and stuff. And it's really through glyphs, and using them in this way that they've been able to kind of create that code to further that hypnotic state. So I think that's a good thing to be aware of, all the coding that's on everything. You can't even buy a piece of fruit that doesn't have a coded sticker on it. So even your fresh stuff, unless you go out in nature and pick it yourself, you know, it's going to have coding all over it. So it's a really good thing to be aware of. So let me look at my list here. The coding, the matrix, the L, the tuning. I think I covered actually everything I want to cover today. And I just wanted to make this video just to give just this viewpoint I was having on not just, you know, the plasma flow and why they are the Illuminati, why they are the ones in charge right now and why this is happening, but that soon, you know, that reversal will take place. And I truly believe that we have some choices to make on where we want to end up, who we are, who our identity is. And if you want to become a master of the electromagnetic field, if you want to have the responsibility of caretaking animals and being in the place of beauty, you know, it's time to live up to those standards. And I can't imagine that anyone, after thinking about it for a little while, wouldn't realize that the care of children and animals is the ultimate test of your soul. It is the ultimate factor in, is this being ready to be in the creative mother father force energy to do their own creations. If you can't even caretake children and animals and the most innocent, then you're not ready to do anything other than to continue to tune yourself, which is fine. It's fine. It doesn't matter how many experiences we all need for this tuning. But if we want to graduate from this song, I'm going to put forth that a big part of that is going to be the plain and precious parts. The simple, plain, and precious parts. And not just plain and not just precious, but both. And it is soft. And it is in this system considered weak. And it is the most powerful thing that we will ever do. So I hope some of that was meaningful for you, and you got something out of it. I did. And I think next time we're going to go back to bloodlines a little bit. I want to talk about the Li bloodline that I found in China and what some of these frequencies might mean. So that's what we'll get into next time. I love you guys.